ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता श्री राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। जयतां सुरतौर्पंगो मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भोजौ राधा मदन मोहनो दिव्याद्वृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमदौ श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधाशिल गोविंद देवौ प्रेष्ठालिभि सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि। श्रीमन् रासरसारंभि वंशी वटतटस्थितः कर्षन् वेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथस्त्रियस्तु नः। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनि ते नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। आनन्दलीलामय विग्रहाय हेमावदिव्य सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय श्री चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। नित्यानन्दमहं नौमि सर्वानन्दकरं परं हरिनाम प्रदं देवम् अवधूत शिरोमणि। श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय। श्री नित्यानंद राम की जय। Hare Krishna. Thank you all dear devotees for joining. Um, last week was a little busy because His Grace Gauranga Prabhu was here in Seattle. So there were a lot of programs, a lot of interactions. Prabhuji was kind enough to do a youth session with the youth here and share his valuable insights, his wisdom, and how to manage one of the common questions, how to manage when you're in college, your academics, your bhakti, and things like that. So Prabhuji was speaking his experiences as to how he was in IIT and then how he joined the Krishna conscious movement and things like that. So apart from that, there were temple programs and kirtans, etc. So it was a very busy, packed week. Only yesterday, Prabhuji went to California. So that's the reason we were not having our programs, because Prabhuji was having temple programs that were going late at night. Nonetheless, we are again back. Very kind and very happy to be with all of you all once again to continue our reading on the section of the deliverance of the two sons of Kuber, that is Manigriva and Nalakubera. And in the section right now, we are in that phase where both the sons of Kubera, that is Manigriva and Nalakubera, they are offering their prayers to Krishna after they have been uplifted by the wooden grinding mortar. That was simply, even though Jadavastu, even though dead matter, is simply following the footsteps of Krishna. And we explain as to how someone may not be intelligent, someone may not have the required abilities, but if someone is sincerely following the predecessor acharyas, then he becomes empowered to not just uplift himself but uplift others, just like the wooden grinding mortar did it. So after the upliftment has been done, these prayers are being chanted. We are halfway into those prayers, so let us continue from the point where we left off. In this material world, you make yourself known only by your different incarnations. Although you assume different types of bodies, these bodies are not part of material creation. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvatah tattvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 text 9 explains the same thing. Janma karma cha me divyam. My birth, my activities are divyam, transcendental. They cannot be understood by material logic. Time doesn't act on Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is time. He says kalosmi. Time acts on us. And our body deteriorates and ages and disintegrates, but doesn't happen for Krishna because he is time. Time doesn't act on him. Likewise, time doesn't act even in the spiritual world. If you see in Sripad Ayendra Prabhu's room, he would have the clock, but that clock would not have the hours hand or the minutes hand or the seconds hand. He had ripped all of them out. There's just a clock, just with the numbers, but no hours hand, no minutes hand, no seconds hand. And Sripad Ayendra Prabhu would say, well, in the spiritual world, there's no time concept. While at some other instance, he also said that 24 hours is too less for devotional service. For us, 24 hours is too much for devotional service. But someone like Ayendra Prabhu, he said 24 hours is very less. He wanted more to do devotional service. So he just ripped everything out so that there is no concept of time. Like, for example, if you see the clock, if you see the time, then you see, oh, it's 8 o'clock, I have to do this. 9 o'clock, I have to do this. It's 11 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, whatever. It's time for me to sleep. But if that concept is not there, then there's no way you're going to stop doing your bhakti. So we are uh, motivated by time. Whatever the time is, we accordingly do. Even in Krishna's time, Srila Guru Maharaj very beautifully was explaining when he was speaking about the Aghasur pastime. He was mentioning that Krishna, when he was small, he would play with his friends, and after that, at night time, he would come back. The friends were very reluctant. They didn't want to leave Krishna, and Krishna also didn't want to leave his friends. It's a tug of war of love. Who can love Krishna the most? Sakyaras is very sweet actually, because we find that in Shanta and Dasya, the Supreme Lord controls the devotee, which means he is the master and the devotees are servants. So it's the Lord who controls. In Sakyaras is that ras where the love of the devotee and the Supreme Lord are equal, which means Krishna is able to reciprocate to the love of his friends. That is why Sakyaras is also called as Samarati or Samaras, where the love of friends and the love of Krishna is one and the same. How much Krishna loves them, that's the equal amount the friends can reciprocate, and vice versa. So in Shanta and Dasya, it's not that way. The love of the devotees can never be equal or can never overpower that of Krishna. But in Sakyaras, it's pretty much equal. But in Vatsalya and Madhurya, the love of the devotee supersedes the Lord. So beautiful. So Sakyaras is the transition where the love changes. In the bottom two rasas, the Supreme Lord's love is the highest, and the devotee cannot match. It's more in the mode of subservient. In Sakyaras, it's equal. And the above two rasas, that is Vatsalya and Madhurya, the Lord's love is subservient to that of the Supreme, to that of his devotees, which means the devotees like Maya Yashoda. Yashoda ties Krishna. Or in the case of Srimati Radharani, Krishna falls at the feet of Srimati Radharani. Smaragara Khandanam, Mama Shirasi Mandanam, Dehi Pada Pallavam Udaram, Radhe Dehi Pada Pallavam Udaram. In the Gita Govind, we find Jayadev Goswami makes this point. When Jayadev Goswami was in his meditation, in his pastimes, he was writing Gita Govind. So that time in his meditation, he saw that Krishna is placing his head at the lotus feet of Radharani. This is almost 1,000 years back when Jayadev Goswami was present. And 1,000 years back, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared. So the concept of Radharani, worship of Srimati Radharani, was not so much prevalent. Of course, there were sadhus in some corners who knew about it, but it was not so much popular like the way it's probably now. In fact, even now, it's hidden. Only if you are probably in Gaudiya or Vrindavan, worship of Radharani is prevalent, but throughout India, if you go, it's not so much. So Jayadev Goswami saw this in his meditation that Krishna is placing his head on the lotus feet of Radharani. So he was thinking, how can I write this? People are worshipping Krishna as supreme, and here my Krishna is placing his head on the feet of Radharani. How can I write this? So he was in two minds. And then Jayadev Goswami, he tells his wife that he's going to take a bath. So he goes out to take a bath. But again, in 5 minutes, he comes and knocks the door. So when the wife opens, Jayadev Goswami is there, and Jayadev Goswami says, actually, you know what, I just remembered something. So he went inside. And he went inside, then he again met with his wife, and he told his wife, let me do one thing, let me have prasadam. And then after that, I will go and take a bath. So the wife said, okay, whatever you desire. So he went inside to his room, then again came out, had prasadam, and then went back to take a bath. After some time, after all this was happened, the wife sat down to eat, because in the traditional culture, after the husband is done, then the wife eats. So then she sat down, and now again there was a knock at the door. She opened the door. It was Jayadev Goswami, and Jayadev Goswami was completely drenched. So the wife said, "Oh, please come." And Jayadev Goswami said, "Oh, that." He looked at his wife and said, "You started eating? I told you I'll come back and I will have prashadam. You could have waited." So the wife was confused. She said, "What are you talking about? You just came and you went inside and then you had prashadam and then you said you're going to take a bath. Because your prashadam is done, that's why I'm having now." Jayadev Goswami is thinking, what are you talking about? I told you initially that I am going to take a bath and after that I'm going to come and honor prasad. So there was confusion completely. Jayadev Goswami was not able to understand what the wife is saying. The wife is not able to understand what Jayadev Goswami is saying. So finally, Jayadev Goswami went inside to his room, and the room was very fragrant, very aromatic. So he was confused. He was thinking, how is it possible this room is so fragrant, so aromatic? And then Jayadev Goswami in his meditation had just written first two lines, and then he had left the last two lines. He had not written because he saw a meditation where Krishna is placing his head on the lotus feet of Radharani, but he wasn't sure how to showcase this to the world. So he had just left it. He wrote two lines but left it. And now when he came back, he saw that, oh, these two lines are completed. Smara Garada Khandanam Mama Shirasi Mandanam Dehi Pada Pallavam Udaram Radhe Dehi Pada Pallavam Udaram. It is completed. So Jayadev Goswami goes back to his wife and says, what is happening? I don't understand. I had not finished this verse. Now I come back, the verse is finished, the room is aromatic. I don't know what's happening. The wife said, exactly, even I don't know what you're talking about. What is this confusion? Finally, Jayadev Goswami realized that the person who came to his house in the form of Jayadev Goswami was none other than Jagannath. Prabhu Jagannath, he personally came disguised in the form of Jayadev Goswami, went inside, and he, being Krishna, completed the verse to show to the world. Jayadev Goswami saw this in meditation, and I am confirming, I am writing it personally. Yes, I place my head at the lotus feet of Radharani. That is how glorious Srimati Radharani is. That is how glorious Madhuri Ras is. And the room was fragrant because it was the uh, fragrance coming from the body of Prabhu Jagannath. The fragrant oils that were offered to Jagannath temple, to the deity, that same Jagannath personally had come, and that's why the room was very, very fragrant. So Jayadev Goswami looked at his wife and said, "You are so fortunate. I am writing and I am seeing meditation, but he is coming for you. He's coming at a time when I am not there in the house. And then not just that, he is also eating from your hand. So you're so glorious. You're so fortunate." So the point is, in the bottom two rasas, the Lord is superior. In the above two rasas, the devotee is superior. But it is in Sakhiras where it is same, where the devotee and the Supreme Lord have a tug of war of love. Mm. So very beautifully our acharyas make this point about how Krishna reciprocates to the love of his devotees in different rasas. So here we are making this point that although you assume different types of bodies, These bodies are not part of the material creation. They are always full of transcendental potencies of unlimited opulence, strength, beauty, fame, wisdom, and renunciation. And Prabhu Jagannath, he took a body of that of Jayadev Goswami to showcase to the world that my devotee is superior to me. So Krishna's pastimes, Krishna, his name, form, pastimes, Naam, Roop, Guna, Leela, these things are completely transcendental, far beyond material logic and far beyond material understanding. So this is why Krishna says, Janma karma cha me devyam, evam yo veti tattvataha. But anyone who knows this in reality, in truth, from a genuine sadhu, from Srila Prabhupada, Gurujan, etc. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. What happens when he leaves his body? Naiti mameti so Arjuna. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. Naiti mameti so Arjuna. That, my dear Arjuna, such a person who has understood my pastimes and myself in reality, in truth, in a proper bona fide sampradaya, well, then after he leaves his body, he doesn't take birth in this world. So in that way. In the material existence, there is a difference between the body and the owner of the body. But because you appear in your original spiritual body, same point. Krishna's Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela are not different. There is no such difference for you. When you appear, your uncommon activities indicate that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such uncommon activities are not possible for anyone in material existence. You, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cause the birth and death as well. Cause the birth and death as well as the liberation of living entities. And you are full with your plenary expansions. You can bestow on everyone all kinds of benedictions. O Lord, O source of all auspiciousness and goodness, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. You are the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, the supreme source of peace, and the supreme personality in the dynasty of King Yadu. O Lord, our father, known as Kubera, the demigod, is your servant. Similarly, the great sage Narada is also your servitor, and only by their grace have we been able to see you personally. We therefore pray that we may always be engaged in your transcendental loving service by speaking only about your glories and hearing about your transcendental activities. May our hands and other limbs be engaged in your service and our mind always be concentrated, our heads always bowed down before the all-pervading universal form of your Lordship. This way we find personalities even in the past. Whatever one's past is, there is always chance for making advancement. Every sinner has a past. You have examples of Murugari. Here you have Nalakuber and Manigriva. Even Bilva Mangala Thakur, who's called as Leela Shukha. Even Bilva Mangala Thakur. We know the pastime of Bilva Mangala Thakur as to how he was attracted to the prostitute. And he would go to her every single day. And so much so that even during the day it was raining heavily and there was complete tide and there was a river between his place and the house of the prostitute. That day, the prostitute thought, oh, it's raining. Probably no one is going to come. She locked the door. And Bilva Mangala Thakur at that time was thinking, how can I cross this river? The urge was so much he couldn't control. So on the day that was where it was raining so much, he still decided to jump into the water. Not thinking about his own life. It's possible he could have been just drowned or swayed, taken away by the current of tide. His life was at stake, but the urge was so powerful that he couldn't think rationally. And he jumps into this river and tries to swim and somehow swims his way and reaches the other side. And when he reaches the other side, he sees the house is locked, lights are off. The prostitute has already gone to sleep. So he somehow climbs on top of the house, and from the top, he puts a rope and then enters into the house. So when the prostitute sees, she looks at him and says, "What kind of person are you? It's raining outside. Even dogs are in there outside. There are no cats and dogs. There is the river is flowing so much. How did you even get here? And the house is locked. But in spite of that, you put a rope and from top you enter. What kind of person are you? Only if you showed so much enthusiasm and so much eagerness for the Supreme Lord, you would have got Krishna by now. The amount of seriousness, the amount of dedication that you're showing to be with me, that seriousness, if you showed for Krishna, for Supreme Lord, you would have got Krishna." When Bilva Mangala Thakur heard this, he thought to himself, "This is true. What she's saying is true." She spontaneously, without any preparation, she was giving a Bhagavatam class. But what she said, it made complete sense. It resonated with the heart of Bilva Mangala Thakur. And then he thought to himself, it is these eyes that are causing distraction. Because of these eyes, I'm getting swayed away and I'm getting attracted to different people, particularly this prostitute. These eyes are the main reason. They are the cause. He grabs the hairpin of that prostitute and plucks his eyes off. These eyes are a reason. These eyes are meant to see Krishna, but with these eyes, I am constantly seeing her and swimming my way here. I don't want these eyes. He removes the eyes, and remembering what she said, he marches, decides to go to Vrindavan Dham. And from there, we find in Vrindavan Dham does bhajan and gets so much realization that he composes the famous Govinda Damodara Madhaviti. 72 verses glorifying the Supreme Lord. And finally, in his meditation, he sees Krishna. Krishna personally comes in front of him. Not just meditation, but even personally, Krishna comes in front of him. So many beautiful verses he writes in the Govinda Damodara Madhaviti. He starts with the pastime of Draupadi, and then he goes to the pastimes of Krishna and Braja, in Sakhyaras, in Vatsalyaras, in Madhuraras. Brajangana Kankana Lolam Gopi Grihitva Navanita Golam Amartayet Panitalena Tasye Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. One time, one Gopi came to the house of Maya Yashoda, and she was speaking to Mother Yashoda, and after discussing everything, the Gopi went back. And as she went back, motherly Gopi, she realized, oh, she forgot her bangle in the house of Maya Yashoda. So she came back. And as she came back, she saw that Krishna is playing with that bangle. Krishna is very small. He is playing with that bangle. Brajangana Kankana Keli Lolam Kankan. Or Kangan, that we said. Krishna is playing with the bangle. So the Gopi says, Krishna, can you please give me the bangle? Krishna is not ready to give. Krishna is not ready to give. He's small. He's playing with the bangle. So the Gopi thinks to herself that he's not going to give it this way. Seems like I have to do something. So the Braja Gopi, the motherly Gopi, Brajangana Kankana Keli Lolam, she goes inside. Gopi Grihitva Navanita Golam. She goes to the house and brings a ball of butter, Navanita Golam. And now from behind she comes. Amartayet pani talena netre. And from behind she comes, and with her pani, with her hand, with her palm, she covers the eyes of Krishna and places the butter ball in front of Krishna's nose. So Krishna cannot see, but Krishna is smelling. And the moment Krishna is smelling, he drops the bangle and holds onto the butter ball. And the moment he holds onto the butter ball, the Gopi got what she wanted. So Krishna gets his ball of butter and the motherly Gopi gets her bangle. And Krishna goes inside, completely forgot. He forgot that 5-10 minutes before he said he's not going to give the bangle, but one butter ball can conquer Krishna and Vrindavan. We are doing so much sadhana and we find it difficult, but the love of the motherly Gopi is such, with one butter ball, he's conquered. So that Bilva Mangala Thakur very beautifully has written this, and so many other pastimes. So everyone has a past. Every sinner has a past. But we don't have to beat ourselves down. Nallakuvera Manigriva had a past, Murugari had a past, Bilva Mangala Thakur had a past. Oftentimes, we know the philosophy. The application part is a challenge. During the time of crisis, we feel hopelessness. We all know the philosophy. We all would have heard and read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. We know all the pastimes. But the application part is when we feel hopelessness. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in this world, when he was performing his pastimes in this world, Sripad Sanatan Goswami met with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Varanasi. And at Varanasi, you have Sanatan Siksha that happened. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 20. Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sripad Sanatan Goswami, which spanned 2 months, 60 days. For Rupa Goswami, it was at Dashashwamedha Ghat, only 10 days. For Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, just a few months. Raghunath Das Goswami was the personality who had maximum association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 16 years. Jiva Goswami hardly saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The only time he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was in the arms of his mother, and in a distance he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jiva Goswami never saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after that. Even without seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's more than 4 lakh verses. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was talking to Sripad Sanatan Goswami, 2 months he speaks the whole Krishna conscious philosophy, every single thing, Sanatan Siksha. Every single thing in detail, Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan, everything is described. Krishna Sambandha, Bhakti, Abhideya, Prema, Prayojan, everything is described in detail. Fast forward 1 year down the line, after 1 year, there is the Jagannath Rath Yatra that happens. And Sripad Sanatan Goswami is having a bodily ailment. There is pus all over his body, and he feels there's no way I can serve with these bodily ailments. And I shouldn't go in front of anyone because it may be a disturbance for them. So he decides to give up his body by jumping in front of the cart of Prabhu Jagannath. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Paramatma, is the Supreme Lord. He knew the heart of Sanatan Goswami. But the point is, Sanatan Goswami knew all the philosophy. Sanatan Goswami heard it from the lotus lips of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not a normal person. He heard it from the mouth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But still, 1 year down the line, he also felt hopelessness. He couldn't, whatever he heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the time of crisis, he also felt a challenge. He also felt it as an obstacle to implement. So oftentimes in our life also we find the same problem. We may hear it, application is difficult, but we don't have to beat ourselves down. For Sanatan Goswami also it happened, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lovingly accepted and embraced him. So we may also hear Krishna book, we may hear the philosophy, but there may be times that are challenging where even if we know the philosophy, it's difficult, and we have to remind ourselves, don't worry, it happened even for Sripad Sanatan Goswami. It is just a part of this world. But that doesn't mean we don't keep hearing again and again. We have to be connected to the teachings as much as possible, and Krishna will give the strength, but there will be times where these challenges will be there. In fact, Sripad Sanatan Goswami is Paramhamsa, he's exalted, he's the guru of Rupa Goswami, but he teaches by example through this pastime, by performing this pastime, that there will be instances in our life where we feel hopelessness. He is the Lord's associate, so he knows all the philosophy, but he's playing the role of a normal person like us, so that we can resonate that he knew philosophy, he heard it from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but still at the time of difficulty, the application part was difficult. So all that we have to do is we have to just cling on. We have to just be patient. Utsahad nischayad dhairya. We have to just be patient. There will be a time where things will slowly start manifesting. Krishna consciousness is not an overnight process. It's never an overnight process. We have to water this seed of Krishna Bhakti, Bhakti Lata Beach. And slowly, as we are watering, it will turn into a plant, a creeper plant, and then finally a tree with nice flowers and fruits. It takes time. We have to just be patient. But through patience doesn't mean we don't hear or we don't chant. We keep doing that. At the same time, we be patient. And there will be instances where we feel hopeless, remembering our past, like Nalakovar and Manigriva are remembering their past. So we may also sometimes remember our past. Many times I see devotees say, "Oh, before I came to Krishna consciousness, I was eating meat, or I was probably into intoxication or gambling or whatever." So it is good to remember the past. If that remembrance of the past is helping us to become more serious and helping us make our prayers more heartfelt, it is good. But we always don't have to beat ourselves down. Then what happens if you're always beating ourselves down? Then devotional life becomes very, very dry, and there is no impetus to perform bhakti. So we have to be patient, utsahat. We have to be enthusiastic, nischayat, dhairya. We have to be enthusiastic and be patient and just keep hearing and chanting. And in due course, we will see the fruits of Vraja Bhakti, Vraja Bhakti Lata Beej. The beej that is sown will give the fruits of Vraja Bhakti. Loving devotional sentiments to Krishna and his devotees in the land of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So in this way, we find in this section very beautifully Manigriva and Nalakuvera are being described when they are offering